financial services, manufacturing, renewables, fossil fuels. All industries in the world require data and need to analyze data in order to come up with higher efficiency of services and products that are delivered or to be shipped. Today, I'm talking with two great experts coming from Merixstudio. This is Hanna Klich and Oskar Czubacki, and we will be talking about how to design beautiful, clear analysis dashboards for different groups of users. This is Merixstudio series. It's time to talk. Hello, Hanna. Hello, Oskar. First of all, if you would be so kind and tell a few words about yourself, that would be nice.
Okay, so I can start. My name is Hanna. I am a senior UX designer, and I have experience working across different fields: financial, something about solar industry, and recently also medical. So all of these, as Mike has said, have something to do with dashboards, and I hope I can share some good insights for you.
Yep, and yeah, I'm Oskar. I'm also working at Merixstudio for 3 years from now, and I'm product designer, specialized in UX design and UI design as well. So yeah, I'm kind of full stack designer in projects, guiding all design process from the very beginning to the end. So yeah.
Guys, it's a great pleasure to have you here. I must admit to our audience, I had the chance to work with both of you, and we shipped a lot of good things together. So I'm really glad to have you here today. Okay, first question. What are the biggest challenges of designing clear dashboards? Yeah, they need to serve different groups of users. Some of those groups of users are not, let's say, proficient or tech savvy. They may represent different levels of education, different nationalities, backgrounds. What are the biggest challenges, especially in such industries like, for example, facility management or renewables?
So I can start, for example, in this topic. So yeah, in the fields of renewable energy and facility management, there are a lot of challenges, especially in effectively managing, analyzing, and presenting data. Mm, Especially data sourced from various sources and various channels, like, for example, sensors, hardware devices, manual inputs, and more and more. These data sets can be quite complex and contain different types of information, making it really challenging to present them in clean, logical, and useful manner.
Yeah, yeah. As Oscar has said, it's always a balance between complexity and clarity. So we really need to be careful about what information is important to which users. So you have to be sure of your audience. They may have different level of tech savviness. They may be interested in different data points. So you have to decide on the hierarchy of information and also how that data addresses their various needs.
All right then. And what are the key elements that need to be placed in dashboard, in every dashboard or most of the projects? What are the key elements that, according to you, should be on an analytical dashboard?
Graphs, and even more graphs. But you have to be careful with these. You have to serve the right purpose, so don't use them for the looks. Just have them to communicate the right kind of information. I think for renewable energy systems, you'll have things like monitoring the capacity of that system, maybe some real time information and historical data about consumption or yield of the energy. So you can monitor whether you're approaching a certain target or you're below a threshold, and that's always good to see. Oscar, maybe something for facility management. Something comes to your
Yeah,
mind?
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I also thought about the thing about the real-time data or data updated regularly, um, because of course in the renewable and facility management, the latest information is always should be always available. But to be honest, we can just simply say that what are the key elements of the dashboards? It really depends, and it of course depends on what client and user need in right moment. So yeah, I think like I mean the dashboards should be kind of like quick view of what's happening in the system right now.
Okay, one small follow-up question on this. Imagine that we have a product or service which is dedicated to, let's say, different groups of users. Yes, like there are, for example, two or three different types of employees logging into one system, and actually each one of them requires a little bit more data. How to handle with such case?
So you really need to understand the different types of audiences, and I think the best way to do it is through research. Would you agree, Oskar?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the user research is the first thing that you should start to, let's say that to target your audience 100%. Um, I mean, another maybe good idea would be implementing, for example, role-based access control. So then you can ensure that users, specific group of users, see only relevant data, and thanks to that, we can offer flexible interactive components, to allow users to manipulate and explore data in ways that best suit their requirements or needs.
Yeah, I like the word manipulate because then customization comes to my mind as well. You can allow certain level of customization. So maybe moving the elements on the dashboard to their liking or to their actual needs. You could also venture into building a dashboard builder. So if this is a very, data heavy thing and very, very specific role, then maybe you would want the specialist really to address their own needs and put the right elements in place. They may be the ones who know what's most important in context. So that's a route to take and consider too.
Okay. What are the most common mistakes or even errors while designing dashboards? Yeah, what can go wrong and how to prevent ourselves from going in the wrong way?
I can start in this field because mistakes are the thing I love during creating the dashboards. So yeah, the first thing, and I mean the well-known mistake in designing dashboards is data overload and information. And the more complex and the more data heavy the system is, the more difficult and the more important the information architecture becomes, and prioritizing the requirements and specific needs of end users is crucial if you want your dashboard to be useful and let's say pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, and I already mentioned the graphs. So really understand what they communicate because different graphs serve a different purpose. It's not just the looks that a pie chart looks better on the screen. You really have to understand what your data communicates and then choose the right type of graph to represent it, so that it really addresses, the audience in the right way. So don't go for the looks. Don't overdo it because it looks better in color. Just choose the right way to communicate with the right graph.
Okay, then. And what are the good practices of designing dashboards? Yeah, what kind of activities can be done by a designer or by a development team in order to come up with an experience that will be useful for various types of users?
Yeah, we already said learn about your audience. So whether you do it through interviews or maybe through observation studies, if you have ways to see, yes, that's user research. If you have ways to access and see how these users do it in person or currently do their tasks. That will give you an example of how they operate in context. Sometimes these dashboards are used, in a remote environment. So let's think of, I don't know, specialists or electricians or installers going to a remote place and then, using it in different sunlight or with a low internet connection. So you won't get to know these things until you actually speak to the users. So consider really their needs and in the right context. So I would say that's the first thing to approach. And then maybe to define what the dashboard is supposed to do. Just don't put everything into it. Define the goal. Is it to guide the user? Is it to help them react to certain events? You have to have an understanding of that importance and the level of hierarchy of information.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. What can I add to it is that the one tip that the, let's say, bigger designers some time ago um, give me this kind of advice to, let's say, design or create the dashboard at the end of the whole design process. I mean, so it's a it's also a well-known mistake, especially for beginner designers, to start designing from the dashboard and then the rest of the parts of the system, let's say. But if we are talking about the dashboards as a let's say quick overview of all other elements in the system, then it's a really good approach to create all of the system as a first step at and then go to the creating the dashboard.
All right then. Hanna touched very important topic. Like some dashboards are meant to make smart investments, but some others are actually used in order to prevent some sort of emergency, like risk or danger, right? If we would have, for example, some situation related to power supply or, for example, fossil fuel supply, sometimes shortage of supply may cause an emergency. Also, what I would like to add, despite the fact that I'm an interviewer today, is that it is extremely important, I think, to put designers into the context. Yeah. In recent years, we have been working with a logistics company from South Africa. We've been working with facility management company and manufacturing company from Germany. We have been doing lots of fintech work for United Kingdom. We have been doing also screening tenant app for the United States. So it is extremely important to put the designers into the context, to introduce them a little bit into the industry or vertical, because this helps a lot in further process. Okay then, what are the best strategies to adapt dashboards to different types of users? Yes, to take into consideration their needs and also what we already mentioned, their savviness or their level of knowledge.
Yes. So that level of customization can come into place if you have, let's say, beginners using the system. You may introduce tutorials and help them walk through the most important features. Just remember to do it in context, not as an overlay, displaying all the necessary information just at the start. So if they complete a certain task or they start a new task, let's say you give them contextual hints so that they are not lost. This can be something that limits the amount of training you provide when they have to learn the new interface. So being helpful, being verbose with let's say labels and the messaging in the system, that helps as well.
Yeah, and again, we can remind about the user research, and maybe especially in this case, also it would be useful, for example, testing with prototypes. So before we go to the development phase, we can, for example, create a interactive prototype and test with different group of users. How do they use them? This dashboard. What are their needs? That's really helpful.
Okay, thank you very much. Uh, what are the specific metrics uh, that we should take into consideration while designing dashboards for different groups? Like, I don't know, is it revenue of the company, number of employees? This can be different things. Yeah. What kind of quantable values we should take into consideration?
I think both like the renewable energy and facility management benefit from cost tracking. That would be for all businesses really. So you have an understanding of where the money is going, how the initiatives that you have in your business, how they're performing. So I would say that's pretty much a standard way. And it really depends. I think we already said that it really depends on the industry. So you wouldn't have like a one set of metrics that fits all. For renewables, it's again, as I said, the targets, the consumption levels, some thresholds that may require, emergency action. Let's say because the installation is, at its limit. So that would be probably for the energy industry. And then for facility management, things like maybe staff occupancy or maybe downtime, so that you see on the timeline how the company is performing, or the equipment how it's performing. If you have what's the, I don't know, mean time between failures, if there are things that you need to fix, anything that goes with alerting you to those necessary situations, so alerts and notifications, and maybe tracking how many of these you have over a month. It will give you an understanding whether your business is performing okay or does it need some adjustment.
Yeah, and I also had some kind of insight from the project that we have realized sometime, where the client was really focused on transferring the already existing calculator system from the Excel to the let's say web application. And the thing that was really important for the client was the performance and let's say the speed of the reaction of the system, and how the whole process how the whole process could be quicker and more smooth with the new uh, web application. Yeah.
Okay, then. What set of tools are you usually using in your daily based work?
Figma and tons of plugins.
Exactly. Figma and Mural as a whiteboard. And yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
that's our set. So the mural is there for scoping sessions and understanding the requirements. We do a lot of back and forth when designing, between our design team and then the client, the end client, so that we understand the requirements, and that happens usually on mural. And sometimes we just use it to, get our heads working and wrap around a problem. I remember that just recently we had a session with Oskar trying to figure out the very complex system and the level of permissions that you needed to access certain elements. So that's typically what we do in Mural. But we're not averse to Excels, as Oskar mentioned. So if you come to us with an Excel, we can make it a web app. The requirements just to be translated in a proper way, and I think we're pretty good at it.
That's right. That's right. But first we will design it in Figma, and then we can transfer it from Excel to the real
Yeah.
application.
I think Excel is still better than exchanging 20 emails, how this is supposed to work, how that's supposed to work. Oh, this calculates this and that. Yeah, it makes
It gives
things
you a
much
very
easier.
definite mapping ideas, I would say. So yeah, it's all right.
Okay, then. Thank you very much for this. Next question will be, what are the key milestones in the designing process? What are the most important elements that we need to take care of in order to make a success?
Mm. Research. Never enough research. Oh, that's the first step, as we've mentioned. So learning about the audience, analyzing the requirements, prioritizing them according to the goals that you want to achieve. Sometimes you fall into the trap of thinking everything is as equally important, but you have to remember that there are people who will challenge this assumption, and that's still fine. We can work out a good compromise. And that needs to align with those needs of your end users, not only of your business but also of those end users. So with that in mind, we usually start during our first rounds of designs and iterate.
Yeah, and during that process, I think the first challenge is to transfer those business and user needs into wireframes or designs. So that's also the very beginning step. And then, if we are talking about, let's say, the further steps of the process where the design meets development, then it's also important to let's say to take care on the collaboration between designers and developers. That's really important and could be sometimes quite difficult topic. But yeah, the good collaboration between designers and developer is the, let's say, key to success of each project, I can say.
Okay, because the part of the, let's say, user experience designer works is also to support the development process, yeah, like to translate the requirements, put developers into the context. Listen, people need this because they need to have that. And let's say, what are at least one or two hints when it comes to maintaining good cooperation between the designers and developers?
I would say ideally you are involved in, as a designer, you're involved in the process end to end. So it's not like you just push out the deliverables, the visuals, and then you're done. You basically stop cooperating. No, that's just the beginning, really. So whether it's communicating through Figma or making little small refinement meetings with the dev team, making sure that they are not lost in your documentation, and the requirements are properly, almost set in stone. Though we work in agile, so we know how it is. But you have them in Jira. You have like a I want to say a source of truth, so that everyone is on the same page, and everyone knows that this is really catering to the business requirement and the outcome that the client wants to achieve as well.
Yeah, I want to also emphasize the part about the deliverables from designers for developers. I mean, it's really the quality of the design file and what is inside it. It's really important. I mean, the design has its own, let's say, dark side. I mean, the technical side. So it's really important to take care on creating components, making clear and consistent style guides, and document all your design decisions in the Figma file. So then um, the developers can easily take it, can look at it, and they understand what is going on. So yeah.
How great impact on your work makes the tech stack? Are you informed upfront that, listen, this is going to be built using React, or how does it look like? Can, for example, the decision can be made during the process, in the middle of the design process? How does it look like?
Yeah, when we are starting working with developers, especially front-end developers, for example, it's really important to be on the same page, on the same side. So the decision about what, for example, tech stack like React or Angular or whatever we are using, it's really important because this is the first step to decide what kind of design system, for example, or components library we will be using. So if we are using the same components library, or let's say similar at least, it's then much easier for also for designers, but for developers especially, to develop and create and code all your designs and wireframes.
I think it saves everyone a level of frustration and disappointment, because the designers do not get frustrated that their design cannot be implemented, and then the developers are not frustrated because the designers come with crazy ideas to the table. So going and being on the same page definitely helps. Those component libraries, as Oskar has mentioned, they are already quite robust. It's good if we know in advance what's possible, what kind of visual elements we can use, or maybe what kind of interactions that they come with already. So we don't really waste the time on, let's say, rethinking something every set of tasks. We can just use certain good practices that are there already.
Yeah, so first it's the design UI design kit or component library. It's a kind of limitation for us to avoid sometimes kind of crazy ideas or whatever. But on the other hand, it's also perfect inspiration for us because we can see the already created set of components and elements, and then we can imagine easier how to, for example, solve some kind of design problem with specific design elements.
Okay, then, and I need to ask this question. This one question comes quite spontaneously. It was initially in our notes, but I need to ask it. How to compromise dashboards on desktop versus mobile?
Ah,
Oh,
tricky.
that's a tough one. Yeah.
I feel it.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. You again have to ask yourself what is the most important on the mobile device, whether you need to see all the information in what way is that experience different. So is it
Okay.
because the you need to quickly access the dashboard, or is it because you're in the field and then prioritize the info that's there? Not everything will be visible at once. You have to allow the users to drill down, and that's
Okay.
still fine as long as they know that the information is not lost.
Uh-huh.
It is just clearly hidden, but it is accessible for them. I think you'll be still fine on a mobile device.
Okay. Okay, guys. This may be my one of two last questions. How does the cooperation with the client look like? What are good practices? How does the process of gathering requirements look like? We talked a little bit about user research and so on, but what are, let's say, good practices? What questions should be asked first, for example?
We do a standard of what, why, when, and how. So there's a set of questions that most of the designers will ask you, or even business analysts as well, when we run workshop sessions or scoping session, depending on the type of requirements that we try to gather. So you go through this process of us eliciting that information, and it's not simply you as a client answering us. It is us also trying to map out requirements, maybe do almost like a mind map or a graph of how different aspects of the system come together, and then from there prioritize the items that could be displayed on the dashboard. So these are usually a couple of sessions coupled with lots of documentation reviews. So we also appreciate if there is a documented kind of, I'm not going to say functional specification because that's not what we do really, but if you have let's say those Excel sheets where you map certain behaviors, certain outcomes of certain parameters, for example, that helps us build a better dashboard, definitely.
Yeah, and another, let's say, really important question to the client before we start the project would be also the first one. Um, does your idea solve the problem, the real problem? And the second one, do you know your target audience and do you know your users? And then you can think about it if this solution, this idea could solve the problem those users. So that's the important if we are talking about the success of the project, for example.
Even if you're not sure the answers of these, that's not the end of the world, I would say, because we can either learn of the audience through user research that we can run for you, or we can do prototyping to figure out whether you are solving that right problem with that solution that you have in mind.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this may be our last question today. What are the potential challenges related to maintaining and usability of dashboards in a dynamic business environment, such as, for example, facility management or renewables?
So as the business grows and the data grows, you may be tempted to put everything more and more on the screen on a dashboard that's already established, and sticking new elements just randomly just because a sensor is available and that data point is available, it will not work for you. I would say you would need to frequently revise the hierarchy of those items, revise whether you're still addressing the needs of that audience. Probably also consider how that new data or how the growing dashboard influences their workflow, and whether they still understand it's delivering the same value to them. So again, prototyping and testing with those users, figuring out whether that they know where this change is coming from, so you do not have to retrain them on using that software. That is something that you should consider as well, other than just sticking new elements onto the layout.
Yeah, and renewables and facility management, they are kind of trendy areas right now. So it's also really important to stay up to date with recent updates and changes in the industry. And you need to be sure that your dashboard or your system is up to date.
Ladies and gentlemen, together with Hanna and Oskar, we would like to say thank you for watching this show. Please feel free to contact us if you have ideas for another episodes or you would have some questions to our experts. We are happy to share our knowledge, to consider your needs, to discuss potential projects that we could be doing together. Thank you all. Have a great day. See you soon. This was Merixstudio show. It's time to talk. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank
See ya.
you.